Good evening and welcome. My name is Beverly Johnson Torelli, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidate. In presenting candidate forms, it is our goal to provide opportunities for voters to become better informed about the people who are running for public office. Tonight's forum is being live streamed on social media and available on the KNDU Facebook page. It is being recorded to be replayed on Charter Spectrum stations around the area. Tune in to channel 190. It will also be available for viewing on YouTube. Tonight we will be hearing from the candidates who are seeking Position 2 and Position 4 on the Kennewick City Council. At this time, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce our moderator, Tracy Dial, People's Choice News Anchor from KNDU. Please give Tracy a warm welcome.
Oh, thank you, Beverly. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see a wonderful crowded room out here, and I was just absolutely honored to have them invite me to be the moderator this evening. So, with that being said, I suppose we should get started. Are you guys ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, tonight we're going to be using the following format. I'm going to speak louder.
Maybe explain what the problem is.
Okay, so the reason it's a little bit hard to hear was, number one, I was talking too quietly. So same for all of us up here. We're going to have to send our voices all the way to the back. There's no audio in this room, no sound system. So these microphones, while they look like they would amplify our voices, they're just going into the cameras so Charter can have a wonderful product that we can watch again if we can't hear it. Double. All right, so tonight we're going to follow the following format. Each candidate may make a 1.5-minute opening statement, and we'll then move on to the question and answer period, of which you'll also get a 1.5 minutes to answer those questions. All candidates running for the same position will answer the same questions, alternating who goes first. We have prepared questions, but we're also taking written questions from the audience, so thank you all who have turned those in. If you have another one that you'd like us to pick up, just raise your hand and one of our League of Women Voters will come pick it up from you and bring it up. We've got one right there. All right, so each candidate then will have 1 minute at the end for a closing statement. So candidates, I would point out the timer to you right in the very front row. She'll hold up the sign when you have 15 seconds left to speak, and then the stop sign. And you don't have to stop right in the middle of your sentence, but do try and finish your thought at that time. So let's begin by introducing our candidates running for Kennewick City Council Position 2, Ward 2. We have Shane Fast, Gregory Jones, and Steve Lee. Unfortunately, Shane Fast was not able to make it tonight, but he has given us a statement to read. And for simplicity's sake, we're going to go through each of these, starting by the person who filed first. So Mr. Fast actually filed first, so I'll go ahead and read his statement now. Shane Fast for City Council Position 2, Ward 2. I've been a resident of Kennewick for approximately 30 years while living in Benton, Franklin counties all of my life, 57 years. My grandfather moved to Eastern Washington in 1908, and while my fifth great-grandfather came to America in 1750. I volunteered my services to the Kennewick Men's Softball Association for approximately 20 years and Pasco American Legion Baseball for a few years. While serving in those positions, I made sure everyone was treated equally and by the rules while protecting every player and every team. Now that I've stopped playing ball, I have time to serve my community in a different capacity, and that would be as a city councilman. I believe the council should look to the future and make sure our children, grandchildren, and all residents can live in a safe and prosperous city. It is important to make sure our taxes are reasonable and not burdensome. Remember, the Boston Tea Party happened because taxation irked colonists, as another instance of taxation legislation being passed by Parliament without their input and consent. We need to do what's best for our citizens. Thank you, Shane Fast. Now, our candidates who are with us this evening, Mr. Gregory A. Jones. Are you ready for your first question?
Do I have a statement first, Tracy?
Yes, you have an opening statement. Are you ready for your opening statement?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Well, thank you guys very much for coming. I really want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. Clearly, there is a need for it, because look how many people are interested in being here tonight. So I really appreciate it. Who am I? I'm Greg Jones. I'm a 24-year resident of the city of Kennewick. I've served my city in many different capacities. I've been on the Red Cross board, Tridec board, Visit Tri-Cities. I do this because I'm trying to make a better future for my children, for my grandchildren someday. What is my background? Currently, I'm the Hanford Site Chief Financial Officer. I'm responsible for about $10 billion in contracts, about $2.5 billion of annual funding a year. I'm responsible for labor agreements. I'm responsible for human resources, industrial relations, and many other things on the Hanford site. Basically, all things administrative for the federal government for all of the contractors. Why is that important? Because I try to apply that experience that I have in my real work life, being a certified public accountant, certified management accountant, and a business person, to helping the city govern. It's been said I'm a low-key person. I am. You probably saw that in the paper. I don't like a lot of fanfare. I'm not a person who likes my name out there, but I think I'm good at governing. I believe I help set the course for the city. I'm looking to the future for our city. I'm trying to make what's best for myself, my children, yourself, your children, and your grandchildren. This is about who you want to hire to run a city of about $140 million a year. I think I'm that person. I'd like your vote. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. And we can applaud for Mr. Lee here, but other than that, we're going to wait until the end, if that's okay. All right, Mr. Lee, your turn for your opening statement.
Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Lee. I am, of course, running for Ward 2, Position 2. I'm a Kennewick native. I was born at KGH, graduated from Burbank High. My wife and I live in Canyon Lakes. We've lived in the Tri-Cities our whole marriage, and I lived here long before that. Here in the Tri-Cities, I have worked a myriad of jobs, giving me exposure to all sorts of groups of professionals and young professionals. I was with the Pasco Chamber of Commerce for 2 years. I was with the Richland Public Facilities District, helping funding and building the Hanford Reach Interpretive Center. I've worked in previous campaigns here in the Tri-Cities and of course in a bunch of different service industry jobs as well in my youth. Most recently, my wife and I are really proud small business owners. We own several businesses now, we're proud to say. But currently we have over 40 employees. We boast that we pay an average wage of $45,000 a year. We pay full benefits to all of our staff, $0 a month for them, their spouse, and all their children. Platinum benefits. We are striving to make living wage jobs in our community and put our money where our mouth is. We, again, most recently have invested in another smart startup business here in the Tri-Cities, the Gourmet Grub Bus. We are over and over again committed to donating to the arts, the charities, and the small business community in the Tri-Cities and making it better from the inside out.
All right. Now, Mr. Jones, are you ready for your first question?
I don't know.
You are. All right. What do you consider to be the biggest challenge the city of Kennewick is facing today? And if elected, how would you face that challenge?
I think there's a number of challenges. I'll say the biggest one is infrastructure. Our infrastructure, like most of America's, is aging, and we have got to invest in that infrastructure. It is not always flashy, but your roads, your sewer, your water are vital to city residents' happiness. You also have to invest in your police department, fire department, because response times are so valuable to every one of us as we age, and we want to make sure that we have people that are there in a timely manner. If your toilet doesn't flush and your water doesn't turn on, you have a problem in the city of Kennewick. I certainly don't want that to occur. So I think infrastructure and maintenance of that infrastructure is vital. It's that foundation to where you can have growth. So there's my answer. Thank you.
All right. Now, Mr. Lee, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Please.
What do you consider to be the biggest challenge the city of Kennewick is facing today? And if elected, how would you face that challenge?
I feel like there's several challenges, and we're very lucky that the challenges are the kinds they are, because I feel like we have very good challenges. But one of the things that I talk about most when I talk to people about what I'd like to change in the Tri-Cities is a change and upgrade to our cultural infrastructure. We have a problem in this community where people ages 16 to 25 vacate for Seattle and Portland and anywhere that they think is cool, and they come back when they're 38 with 2 kids, and then they live here forever. There is a time in people's life where they have a lot of energy, where they have a lot of creativity, where they have a lot of tolerance for risk, and where they're still not figuring out where they're going. That time is so profitable and so productive and so creative. Kennewick already has a backbone for small business development with Tridec, with the regional chamber, with all the things we already do. It would take this much more focus and dedication and effort to really dedicate ourselves as the startup city and to make our city the city with the infrastructure to house an unlimited number of people that want to come here and make an honest living starting their own business. We have a highly skilled, highly technical workforce in this community. We have very good education systems around here. We have people that can do very good jobs, and we need people that are willing to come here and invest in our community to create those jobs and take part in their community that they live in.
Once again, they did a fabulous job, but we're going to try and hold the applause till the very end just to keep it going.
Very good.
Sorry. Question number 2, Mr. Jones. The Kennewick City Council formed, actually this is yours,
yeah.
Steve Lee, just so you know. You're first. So, the Kennewick City Council formed the Diversity Commission per Resolution 1611, a resolution affirming the city's commitment to promoting and embracing diversity and the establishment of a Diversity Commission. Do you support the continuing work of the Diversity Commission, or do you see its lifeline as limited?
On the front end, I'm not sure what its lifeline as limited means, but I'll tell you what I feel about the diversity.
Its future.
Its future. I don't feel like there's a limited future to inclusiveness and trying to make our community more economically diverse and therefore more stable. When you diversify your portfolio, you're more able to tolerate risk. As a community, we need a diverse small business portfolio. When we invite different kinds of people into our community and accept them into the fold and make them feel welcome, they invest here, they make different kinds of businesses that you wouldn't have thought of or that you wouldn't have thought of. We need that to keep our community healthy and growing in an honest way. So that's one sort of thing. As far as the diversity resolutions that have been going around the Tri-Cities, I feel like it is a shame that we have spent this much time as a community fighting and talking about the different details about whether or not we should let nice people come to our community, live here, and do business. I think it's silly. I think it's a waste of our time. And I think we need to go ahead and commit to our values and say, if you're not here being a violent criminal, we have room for you. Like, come here and start a business, employ some people. So I feel like we can just... There will always be room to include a broader swath of our community in every aspect of what we do. So in that regard, there will always be room for this. But as far as whether this is a controversial issue to accept diversity in our community, I think that's a silly proposition in the beginning. Thank you. Don't clap.
Thank you. And all three of us, if we could speak up, I hear some people going like this.
Okay.
Do our best. Question number 3.
Would you read the question to me?
Yes. The Kennewick City Council formed the Diversity Commission per Resolution 1611, a resolution affirming the city's commitment to promoting and embracing diversity and the establishment of a Diversity Commission. Do you support the continuing work of a Diversity Commission, or do you see its future as limited?
I'll be very direct. I 100% support the work of the Diversity Commission. We have a very diverse community. We have diverse ethnicities, we have diverse genders, obviously, we have diverse religions, and this city of Kennewick is for everybody. It's not just for people that look like me, talk like me, go to the same church as me. So 100% I support the Diversity Commission. I hope it doesn't need to have a future, but if it needs to have a future, if I'm on the council, I'm going to support that. Let me explain what I mean by that. What you hope is that people open up their aperture, that they accept people for their differences, that they reward people for their backgrounds, and that they are not judging people negatively based upon any of those types of things. So, the work they're doing is vital to ensure that we look at and determine what types of issues are affecting our community from an inclusion standpoint, but I hope in the future we don't need it. I hope it can have a nice past, because I'm hoping that this community continues to be the loving and caring place that I moved to. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones, you're up first again.
Okay.
Audience questions. And several people actually asked it, so I'm kind of just going to meld them together. Recently, it was Pride Week for Tri-Cities, and the Yakima City Council even approved an official Pride Week. Is this something you would support, and how would you? And how would you?
Well, I'll springboard after the last answer I had. I'm a person, I don't judge people. I know that many cities have had pride festivals. I'm assuming you're talking about gay pride,
Yes,
lesbian, LGBT community. The way to support that is, you could have a day for it, you could have a resolution, you could have a parade for that. I just said I'm not judging people. We're an inclusive community. There are people in our community that have different ethnicity, that have different sexual preferences. It's a fact. It exists. I don't think we should ostracize them. It's not in my bailiwick, but I do believe if community members ask me to support something like that, I would be hypocritical not to.
All right, Mr. Lee, would you like me to try and repeat that?
Please.
All right. We recently had Pride Week here in Tri-Cities, and Yakima City Council recently approved an official Pride Week. Is this something you would support, and how?
I absolutely would support it unequivocally, and for the following reasons. Well, I mean, again, springboarding back one question, we just discussed that diversity is an ongoing uphill battle, and we should always be looking to make the landscape more diverse because it makes us more economically stable. But on that same point, Pride Weeks, truck weeks, car weeks, weeks of all kinds where we invite people from all around the region to come to our community, frequent our businesses, stay in our hotels, eat at our restaurants. If it's a week that does that, let's throw a week. If it's a month that does it, let's maybe throw whatever we got to get some people in these businesses. A Pride Week can also be a Pride in our community week. It doesn't just have to be I'm a homosexual, I'm LGBTQ. It can be I'm an ally. It can be I have pride in these people in my community. We all have something we can contribute, and there are just unarguable economic advantages to doing these sorts of things. So yes, we have these people in our community. We do need to embrace them. A great way to do that would be by allowing some people to organize a Pride Week, and the small business owners that came around that, I guarantee you would see a surge in their business during that time.
All right, Mr. Lee, you ready for first up on a question?
Surely.
All right. In light of the response of 173 mayors representing 49 million Americans pledging to uphold the Paris Agreement at the municipal level, if elected to the City Council, what suggestions do you have for the City of Kennewick to encourage environmental responsibility?
I think that the whole front of that question can just be separated, and the last part of it is the valid part. What we can do to help encourage environmental responsibility is be environmentally responsible and support businesses that brag about how they're environmentally responsible and call ones to task that we catch not being environmentally responsible. And there is a really, really good argument that if our community prefers environmentally responsible businesses with their wallets, magically environmentally responsible businesses will appear because they want your money. So if you want to be really cynical about it, there is, again, an economic advantage to being environmentally friendly. So we can go that route. Also, if you want to talk on the more progressive end, it's just good. It's good for our community. It's good for our kids. It's good for our waterways. It's good for our dogs. It seems so silly that could be an issue. But again, if the consumers in our city speak with their wallets and they would like to see eco-friendly businesses come into this community, I feel like the City Council should do everything we can to invite those businesses into our community, make it easy and as speed bump free as possible for them to set up shop and make those kinds of jobs in our town.
Mr. Jones.
Mind reading the question?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
In light of the response of 173 mayors representing 49 million Americans pledging to uphold the Paris Agreement at the municipal level, if elected to City Council, what suggestions do you have for the City of Kennewick to encourage environmental responsibility?
I think the main thing a person in the City Council can do is to talk to the city staff in the committee levels, to work with the directors, to work with the city manager, to ensure that the city is not only promoting but acting responsibly when it comes to sustainability. That's the term we use is sustainability. It means being ecologically friendly. It means recycling. It means being smart and focused about the type of products we purchase as a city and how we utilize those products. So what can you do as a city councilman? You can set the right policies in place to ensure the city is sustainable. You can also set the right policies in place to ensure that businesses, as Steve mentioned, are responsible or held accountable, as Steve mentioned, if they're not being accountable. It's important to our future. Resources are limited. We need to make sure that we're being very diligent about sustainability in this city through our policies. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones, you're up again.
Okay.
What does the term economic development mean to you, and how important is economic development to the city of Kennewick's future?
Economic development means to me being as diverse in wage-paying jobs as we possibly can be. I told you before, I'm the Hanford Site Chief Financial Officer. That's a lot of jobs. And to me, the future is we have to be more diverse. We are a bedroom community for Hanford. Many of the jobs and the multiplier factor associated with Hanford jobs are driven by federal government spending. We need to get more diverse. We need to attract industry. We need to attract business at all levels, small, middle, and big. We will not have sustainable economic development until we are able to get those sustainable wage grade jobs for the future. So what does it mean to me? It means less dependence on Hanford. It means more diversity in our economic base. And it means sustainable activities from tourism to industry, all across that spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, what does the term economic development mean to you, and how important is economic development to the city of Kennewick's future?
Economic development to me means, it is the process of creating or inviting people to create stable, long-term living wage jobs in our community. If we are not seeking people that create stable, long-term living wage jobs in our community, or seeking small business owners who live in our community and through being part of our community are invested in its success, we are not achieving economic development. We are riding a wave of troughs and peaks that we don't have any control over. Sustainable jobs don't come from Hanford, and they don't come from government edict budgets. They come from the little guy. They come from a mom and a pop that live down the street from you that employ 4 people, and they know their wives and their kids. Those jobs are sustainable. Those people have an investment in our community, an investment to keep those jobs there, and the relationships they make multiply and create that exact kind of diverse stability we were talking about. If we are hoping for people at the top echelons of our government to invest in our community in such a way that it magically sprouts up economic diversity, I'm sorry to say it won't last, and we've seen record of it in the past. We need to be focusing on small businesses, 50 employees and under, because Richland's got it. Hanford has their own thing. Kennewick can be the startup city. We need to be finding people that are willing to invest $10, $20, $30, $50, $100,000 in our community, not seeking for people that already have $1 billion to throw around.
All right. Question number 6 from the audience. Lee, Mr. Lee, you're up first again. Can you give an example of a specific city council policy that 1, you object to, 2, you support?
I think that so I'm reticent to object to many things. I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky individual. One of the things that has impacted my life very recently, I'm managing a large building remodel project in Benton County proper, but we still use the permitting and inspecting and all the engineering approval and offices in the city of Kennewick. And again, with many agencies, we see a simple lack of underfunding, under-efficiently staffing our administrative offices in such a way that we can really turn out volume. There is an unfortunate feeling that government is lethargic. I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but as a small business owner, I know that if people aren't doing their job, that they don't necessarily keep their job, and if a job becomes irrelevant, we find a new job for the person if they have the good skills. I'm not saying we should go canning anyone at the City of Kennewick and start hiring new people to replace them, but what I'm saying is we should be looking creatively at ways to manage the workflow so we can be responsible like a for-profit company would, because I guarantee you Amazon is handling their load differently than the City of Kennewick is handling their load. There are things we can learn from private industry to help us better use the assets we currently have that would make what we already have work a lot smoother, and if we could find some more money to reinvest in it, potentially a lot smoother.
Thank you very much. Your turn, Mr. Jones. Can you give an example of a specific City Council policy that A, you object to, B, you support?
I'm going to go a little off the ranch here and go with more state policy. One of the things that the city has tried to do very diligently is reinvest in our infrastructure. We've done that through the Public Works Trust Fund. The Public Works Trust Fund dollars have been eroded by the state legislature tremendously, and the dollars that we've utilized have paid back dividends both to the city and to the state tenfold. It's been amazing. So it's kind of not a city policy that we control, but it's a policy through the state that I'm going to utilize as something I've been against. As far as what I'm for, there are many things I'm for. one of the things that I think has been a major success is the planning department and the way they've utilized and streamlined and put technology to use for people trying to get permits. We have people from the Home Builders Association and others, and I think that we have streamlined the permitting process, the planning process tremendously. I'm very proud of that. You get feedback from developers, and developers are saying that we're the best in the Tri-Cities by far. The people that are doing that are amazing. They work very, very hard, so I'm very proud of that, and I think it's helping development. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lee. No, Mr. Jones, you're up again.
Okay.
Back and forth. All right. The City of Kennewick is partnering with several jurisdictions for the establishment of a regional 911 call center. Do you support this plan?
100%. Our strength is in unifying these cities, working together to the extent we can, eliminating redundancies and costs. This is a prime example. If the borders in our community are crossed often by people every single day. I live in Kennewick, I work in Richland, my wife works in Pasco, you're across those lines a lot. So with all the jurisdictions between West Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, and Franklin County and Benton County, we're putting together a regional dispatch for 911 that is able to work across those lines without worrying about where people live and work. It's important, it's much more cost efficient, and it's safer for the people in this room and in our community. So 100% favor.
All right, Mr. Lee. The City of Kennewick is working with several jurisdictions for the establishment of a regional 911 call center. Do you support this plan?
Absolutely yes. Unequivocally yes. Just as was just said, anytime you can sort of Costco discount your workload, it's better for the bottom dollar. And that's what a regional 911 center would do. I don't disagree with anything that was just said. So I actually just want to say one piece of room for growth. I think 3 times before this event began, the topic of, boy, don't you think the cities ought to start working together was brought to me. And the answer is, oh my gosh, they already work together so much. They work together incredibly. And I think if there's any fault, there is that we don't market the competence of our intercity cooperation well enough, because the vast majority of our community, if they're not directly firefighters, EMT, police, these communities that are the bedrock of our town and really the best examples of this coordination, if they don't know these people, then they don't understand. And so I feel like we could, as a community, sort of be a little prouder of how we respond in that regard. Yes, there are always places we can grow, of course, but I don't think that the hallmark of any of our infrastructure in this community is benefited by creating fortified islands where we stay away from each other and don't work together. I think that's silly, and I think the Regional 911 Center is an incredible idea.
All right. Mr. Lee, up first. We've talked a lot about economic development and infrastructure. On another hand, do you think natural open spaces should be preserved within the city of Kennewick?
Absolutely. If there's any possible way, under any circumstance that is remotely viable. One of the things that people who move to our community, I had the benefit of working for the Pasco Chamber of Commerce for a few years, and so part of my job was recruiting people, making it very appealing to move to the Tri-Cities from all sorts of places. But when people come to the Tri-Cities from other places, they notice the small town feel, they notice the lack of traffic, believe it or not, they notice the inexpensive cost of living, how nicely upkept the neighborhoods and schools are, but they also notice that it is the kind of community that they can live in forever. I'm so sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Absolutely.
I was like 2 ideas ahead in my head.
Do you think natural open spaces...
Open spaces, I got it, thank you. So, the open spaces are integral to that. People move from Seattle because the open spaces there are so commercialized and so claustrophobic that they aren't open spaces anymore. One of the best things about our community is that we have the wide open spaces. We have big blue skies, we have rolling hills, we have a feeling of freedom in this community that you don't experience any other place in America that I've been. It is truly unique, and when you add the nice people and all the other things we talk about, this area becomes a first-class competitor for place to live forever. So should we protect the open spaces? Yes, it is an investment in our future. It is an investment in the economic viability and sustainability of our community. They should never be questioned or challenged. Yes, plants and stuff, it's good.
All right. And Mr. Jones? Do you think natural open spaces should be preserved within the city of Kennewick?
I do. I'm going to tell you a little story. I used to work in Seattle. I still travel to Seattle quite frequently. And when you get in Seattle traffic and you drive and you come out of the pass and you come down into Ellensburg and you see the open spaces, stress relief. You all done this before? I have. Every single time I come back from Seattle, I get stress relief. Why does that matter to this question? Because part of that is the open spaces. So you need to have open spaces, but you need to plan for them. That's where planning comes into play, because if you don't, you're going to have development that will overtake this, and it will be done haphazardly. So you need to think ahead about where the right place is to have open spaces, both natural and planned. People love parks. Parks are expensive, but you need to have parks because kids need to play, etc. So I'm a hiker. I like Badger Mountain. I like the hills. I like the State Patrol. You know, you have to have that as a plan. So it is absolutely vital to our stress-free life here, but you need to think ahead a few years to where the development's going to happen, plan for both open spaces and parks for the community so we can have this wonderful environment we live in the city. Thank you.
All right. Now I believe it's time for closing statements. So you'll each get 1.5 minutes? 1 minute. 1 minute. And we'll do it in the same order. Mr. Fast is not here, so we'll start with Mr. Jones.
Well, once again, I really appreciate you guys coming. It's really nice to see people so interested in city government. I think city government is what touches us most. It touches us most closely. So I appreciate that. As I kind of alluded to earlier, this is a hiring decision. You're trying to hire one of us to represent one of 7 people to run a city of 400 people, 100 police officers, almost $150 million a year, 80,000 people, roadways, sewers, contracts, labor disputes, etc. I believe you should hire people with the most experience in these types of areas. I believe I'm that person. I think it's great we have people trying to run for office, and I appreciate the fact that we have so many people interested. I think I'm the right person. I'd like to be rehired to run and help run your city as your elected councilman. Thank you.
And Mr. Lee, 1 minute for closing statements.
Thank you all for coming today. This is an incredible turnout. I didn't in my wildest dreams think that there would be this many people in this room. As a closing statement, I would like to say that this is a hiring decision. I am a person who has started a multi-million-dollar company that has personally paid millions and millions of dollars in local and state taxes. I have a payroll that's tens of thousands of dollars a month. I make decisions myself that affect this community that have ripples far beyond my direct grasp. I understand the consequences that come with leadership. If you're looking for someone to represent our community, you might want to look for someone that is deeply invested in our community and is one of you. This is my first time up here. I'm not a career politician. I'm not saying my competitors are either, but I'm saying I'm a small business owner. I'm a normal person. I'm just like you. If you want someone that has a new vision for our community, if you want to see things take a different approach, if you want to see somebody that has personal, individual, proven success lead our community, I'm your guy. So please vote for Steve Lee and go to steveforkennewick.com and donate $1.
All right, now we can applaud. Thank you guys. Introduce candidates running for Kennewick City Council position 4 at large. They are Jim Millbauer, Bill McKay, Christy Watts, Ed Pacheco, Leo Perales, and Austin Griffin. Again, for simplicity's sake, the candidates are seated and will be addressed in the order in which they filed to run for this office. So first of all, we'll do opening statements. Mr. Millbauer, you're up first.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Jim Millbauer, and I want to thank everyone for attendance here tonight. I really appreciate seeing all the faces, and I really want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event. I came to the Tri-Cities in 1971, and Kennewick has been my home for over 30 years now. I am a husband, a father, and a grandfather. I am a pipe fitter by trade, and I've been supporting many charitable organizations within the Tri-Cities for the last 25 plus years. I have a passion to serve others, and I want to make a difference. The only way change happens is when you choose to become more involved, and that is why I'm running for the office. I love this community, and I believe in giving back. My campaign slogan is, your voice, your community. I believe in providing a quality of life that is second to none for Kennewick residents. And here's what I think it will look like. Preparing an infrastructure capable of supporting existing businesses in residential areas, as well as attracting new business and industry. Developing projects that utilize local labor, providing family wage jobs, which inspire others to make their home here, actively recruiting business and industry that not only provide quality jobs, but offer goods and services for the quality of life here in Kennewick. Ensuring our community is safe and adequately protected, all those that dedicate their lives to the safety and emergency services. Teaming up with organizations to provide more cultural and recreational offerings which serve the needs of the community and attract tourists to spend their money here other than elsewhere. Communicating with residents for input, guidance, and support of our local city government. This process must be financially managed with our available resources and provide citizens with the basic services they deserve here in Kennewick and want for future generations to enjoy. Again, it's your voice for your community. Please vote for Millbauer for Kennewick. Thank you.
Mr. McKay.
So I'm not a politician by any stretch of the imagination. An old dairy boy, farm boy, grew up in Meridian, Idaho, and dairy farmed for 12 years after we were married. So I learned the value of hard work doing that. Also learned that either you got big or you got out of the dairy business, and I didn't have the money to get big, so went back to school and got an accounting degree and became a banker. Ended up moving to the Tri-Cities in 1996. Actually working for IBP at the time for a short period of time, and then went back to banking. And I've been in banking for quite some time until I recently retired. While I was banking, I built a business, 27th Avenue Self-Storage. And my dad told me if you work 9 to 5, you're not going to get ahead. So I've always called that my night, or my moonlight job. And so consequently, I've built that business from scratch, and Only one of the candidates who have been through the permitting process, commercial permitting process, and been through that part of the city's process to build buildings and that type of thing. Plus, I have the accounting degree, and so consequently, I feel like I could contribute to the council through that. Thank you.
Ms. Watts?
Hello, everybody. My name is Christy Watts, and I'm asking for your vote for position 4 in the council. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm a wife. I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I'm a grandmother of 4 children, all of whom I'm lucky enough to have in the Tri-Cities. My husband's name is Brad, and he's a ham tech worker out in the area. I retired from Ben Franklin Transit after 15 years at the end of April. And when I told my friends and some of my fellow workers that I was going to retire, and they said, why in the world would you want to go into politics? And I kind of chuckled at that because I've been really involved in community activities and community service for most of my adult life. So when I thought about going into politics, it really didn't seem to me like it was anything more than my passion for community service. I'm a member of Columbia City Rotary, and I'm a past president. I worked as the development director for Tri-Cities Prep before the school was even built, and raised the money to fund the building of the school and scholarships that continue on today. I'm a member of the Human Services Coalition. I'm a member of the Community Block Grant Committee. I've served on the Benton-Franklin County's Continuum of Care for Homeless Housing and numerous other things, including the Veterans Coalition. I'm willing to work hard, and I think I'm your gal, and I think that we need some diversity, so please vote for me. Thank you.
Mr. Pacheco?
Greetings. My family's been here since 1960. I'm a very proud parent of all Cougars. I got 4 in Cougars. They've all graduated from WSU. Half have been in the military. Very proud of that. They came home safe from some combat tours. If you didn't know, in my day job, I'm a K-9 officer with explosive detection systems out at Hanford Patrol. I'm also the chairman of the Planning Commission. Some great group of individuals there. They make good recommendations for the city, and they've chosen me to be the chair. I'm also a member of the Hanford Advisory Board. Hanford will impact our community. It's good to have somebody up and running that knows what's going on out there at Hanford. The third thing, if you didn't know about me, is I was also on the commission on the recent criminal justice tax. I helped write that, and I took another year as a chair to get that communications to get that passed. And lastly, I am the president of the protective forces out there. We have some great commissioned officers out there. A lot of people don't know they're 90% veterans, maybe 95% veterans. And sometimes when the big companies come in, they need to be reminded they have protected statuses in conditions of employment. And I've been very privileged that they've chosen me to be part of that. Some of the things that I look forward to if I'm on the council is finish some projects we have going on. We do need infrastructure. That 395 ridge line is tops for me. Vista Field needs some infrastructure. We need to finish what's going down on Columbia Drive. Lastly, one thing that I personally would add, I think that I like is better communications. I mean, I think people can talk better to each other. It's one thing to talk, but it's also, you got to listen, and we have to understand each other. Thank you.
Mr. Perales?
Awesome, thank you. I first just want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. I know how it is because I helped out last year, and they're very tedious, and so I just want to say thank you to that. I also want to say thank you to my wife and kids. I love you guys so much for during this campaign. It's a grind, but I love it, and it's been very humbling talking to everyone at their doors. And I also want to thank my parents who are here tonight also for moving here over 30 years ago. And giving myself and my brothers and sisters the opportunities that this city has afforded us. And I want those same opportunities for the future generations here in Kennewick. I believe our city needs fresh, young, and forward-looking leadership because I really envision a city that truly embraces the depiction of a shiny city on a hill. A city of Kennewick where every resident can succeed, and a city where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. A city where we work together to make things better for everybody. I have spent years committing myself to public service. I'm the vice chair for the Kennewick Housing Authority. I'm also the vice chair for the Benton County Planning Commission. I also sit on the Washington State Partnership Council on Juvenile Justice, Racial and Ethnic Disparities Committee. And I've also been involved in Pasco in regards to the tragic shooting a couple of years ago. And on these boards and commissions, I have run towards the issues, not away from them. And being on those commissions, I have gained the knowledge and experience and understanding of the complexities of local government. We need to ensure that our police department, our fire department, and our emergency services have the funds and tools to do their job effectively. We need to be smart in our planning for growth and ensure that we have the necessary infrastructure in place that will allow our local economy to function and grow. The city of Kennewick has a decision to make. Many in this room would agree that my generation needs to step up and start making decisions. I have not sat on the sidelines, and I look at this opportunity to be a councilman as a responsibility of my generation, and I would be honored to represent the city of Kennewick. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Griffin.
Welcome all. I'm 22 years old. My name is Austin Griffin. Probably the most underqualified guy up here. But, you know, I've always been interested. Most of my generation, it's just a bunch of kids that, you know, tweet, Facebook about the problems. They don't do anything to go, you know, tackle the problems. And that's what I'm trying to be for my generation, for you guys, for every generation in Kennewick. I plan on, you know, who hates driving over potholes? Me, probably everybody else. Tires, terrible. You gotta, you know, we have to focus on infrastructure. Vista Field, that's got a great, you know, I can't even think of a word right now, sorry. The potential, there we go. The potential of Vista Field. I've lived next to Vista Field almost my whole life. I live right next to Tritech. It's a beautiful area, but now that Vista Field is, you know, closed down, I used to love watching airplanes, you know, take off and land. The potential is just for a downtown, you know, cool little shops, bringing in diverse businesses. It's unreal. Oh, what else do we have? I am so scared right now. Oh, man. You know, I understand that most of you won't vote for me. I've accepted that. But, you know, I might just go into comedy after this one. But, you know, I just wanted to show that it can happen. And this is America, you know. You can do anything you want. I'm 22, I'm running for city council. I never thought, you know, I've lived here my whole life. And, you know, I just think that city council, it's 5 people that have been there for, you know, quite a long time. Sorry. Okay.
All right, when you see the stop sign, you can finish your thought. You don't have to stop halfway through. Good job, everyone. Now, we'll move on to questions for the candidates. We'll go in the same order, but each candidate will have the opportunity to answer a question first. Okay. So once again, we'll start with Mr. Millbauer. So what do you consider to be the single most critical issue facing Kennewick today? And if elected, how will you deal with that issue?
Well, I think there's a lot of issues that Kennewick is dealing with, and quite frankly, for the last year and a half, I've been following and watching. I think they're doing a wonderful job on it, so I couldn't pick out one critical area. However, one area I think that would help Kennewick is to partner. They partner with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different community partners. But I think they need to partner more with the citizens of Kennewick. It seemed to be easy to get online and find things after you get used to their web page. But I think we need to go out and introduce ourselves to the citizens of Kennewick, make sure they know who we are, what we're doing, and try and get their involvement in there and educate them on the areas that Kennewick is going for, to include them so they at least feel included into what Kennewick is doing and their vision for the future.
Mr. McKay?
Yeah. Please read the question again.
Yes, of course. I'll read it every time. What do you consider to be the single most critical issue facing the city of Kennewick today? And if you were elected, how would you deal with the issue?
The city of Kennewick is a fast-growing city, one of the fastest in the state, and so obviously one of the biggest things is going to be keeping up with the infrastructure. Prioritizing the budget to do that is I think the most important thing, because 80% of the budget currently is salaries, wages, and benefits. And so it's very difficult to only use 20% of the budget to keep up with growth. And so I think there needs to be some prioritization in order to meet that goal of keeping up with the infrastructure that needs to happen. If we grow like everybody thinks, and particularly industrial areas, that is going to have to be stepped up considerably to keep up with the infrastructure. As my neighbor here made the comment, as far as keeping up with, being more friendly to citizens of the community. I think when people are investing in the community and putting their money in the community, the city employees need to be very courteous and helpful in making those things happen. And I've had some bad experiences with people that have talked to me and told me that that's not always been the case. And so I think we also need to work on that when people are investing their hard-earned money in the city.
All right, Mrs. Watts, what do you consider to be the single most critical issue facing Kennewick today? And if elected, how will you deal with that issue?
I think one of the most critical issues is the urge to sprawl, and we're seeing that out at Southridge. I love that area out there, and I think it's just really cool to have that. But as you look, the houses are going farther and farther out, and I think that's really a planning issue. And I do believe the city is addressing that. I think some of the opportunities with Southridge and Vista Field and Columbia Drive are limitless as far as what we can do, but things need to be well planned out so they're sustainable, that they're not just here today and gone tomorrow, and that we've got to avoid the sprawl. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Pacheco, what do you consider to be the single most critical issue facing Kennewick today? And if elected, how will you deal with that issue?
Well, it's not a critical issue, but I'm very happy it's being addressed. What we need to finish is that Ridgeline Drive interchange over there. I don't know if you've been following that, but allow people to come off the freeway and get off in the Southridge area. And that way, think about it. Right now, maybe all my kids went to Southridge as well. If they cross that road, that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. I mean, if one person gets killed there, we haven't done enough. And it may create opportunities. We also may create businesses out there. I don't know. But we do need to get ready for the future generations. And I think it's a good thing to have more homes in that area. That's just me. I think we need to get, I think we expect 30,000 in 10 years, by the way. We need to prepare for that. And we need to do that because if we are serious about going to urban growth, boundary way, you know, one of the reasons we lost that, and maybe I could be wrong, was that because we had open spaces and our population didn't meet that need. So if we're going to do that, we need to have a serious discussion if that's what we want to do. And I think that's a good thing because I think that'll create more jobs for our community, myself, if we're able to cross the freeway over there. But I think that interchange is most important right now for me, to make sure that gets done. And somebody might say, well, that's in the works, you know, that's going to happen. Well, I don't know, look at Trios. I mean, we all, probably I did at least, hopefully they did well, and look where they're at now. We can't take our eye off the ball on that interstate.
All right. Mr. Perales?
Yeah, I believe the number one issue that our community is going to face is infrastructure funding and managing our growth. Because by about 2040, we're going to see about upwards of 33,000 more people here in the city of Kennewick. So we need to start now and being proactive. We need to have ample funding to maintain and plan for our growth. That means our roads, our bridges, our sewer lines, our water lines, our stormwater. And just, you know, this past year, we've seen the Public Works Trust Fund being rated because you need a fund for education, which I'm fine for that, but that really hurts local municipalities because we're the ones who need to be providing the funding for our capital facilities and our infrastructure. Because the state of our infrastructure affects the ability for our economy to function and grow. So on the city council, I would fight for see that the state would implement, for instance, an infrastructure bank account at the state level. I would like to see maybe we may need to look at sales taxes, a special sales tax to fund a lot of our infrastructure. Maybe even public-private partnerships. There's a lot of alternatives that we should do, but I would hate to raise taxes to fund those. But we need to understand that in order to combat our growth, we need to start seeing more public investment in our infrastructure. So again, I would think infrastructure funding is going to be the biggest critical barrier to our city going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Perales. Mr. Griffin, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
All right. What do you consider to be the single most critical issue facing Kennewick today? And if elected, how will you deal with that issue?
Well, most critical issue I think is the infrastructure. You know, it's the roads, they're not in the greatest conditions, we need to improve them, and then the Vista Field, Clover Island area needs to be, you know, planned out very carefully. I don't want to raise taxes on you guys. You know, I don't like paying taxes very much, but, you know, I don't think anybody does, but it gets the stuff done. Another thing would be Oh, I don't know. I just choked. I'm sorry, guys. I'm done. Sorry.
No worries. All right, we'll move on to question 2. Mr. McKay, you will be up first this time.
Okay.
And this is a 2-part question. What is your definition of inclusive? And in your opinion, does the city of Kennewick adhere to it? Also, if there was a movement for the city of Kennewick to become an official sanctuary city, where would you stand?
Well, I'll make that really easy. I'm not in favor of a sanctuary city. I believe that there are laws on the books, and the people come here should be vetted for our own safety. After that, they're welcome, and they should be welcomed and included in things in the community. And but as far as the inclusion, they also have to want to be part of the community as well, and to I forget the word I'm thinking of, but anyway, they need to assimilate. That's the word, assimilate into the community as well. So it's a two-way street in my book. That people coming need to assimilate. We need to accept and help them to get started in life. All of us, most all of us, are here because of immigrant families, and that's what America is. But on the other hand, we don't live in the same world as we used to, and there does need to be laws, and they need to be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Watts, 2-part question again. What is your definition of inclusive? And in your opinion, does the city of Kennewick adhere to it? Also, if there was a movement for the city of Kennewick to become a sanctuary city, where do you stand?
As far as inclusion, I think the Diversity Commission that the council has appointed is a very, very good start. I think that just the fact that we're talking about diversity and things like inclusion is important. I'm a real advocate for diversity of ethnic, gender, and sexual identity. I do think that we don't have to say we're a sanctuary city to act like a sanctuary city. I think it's ridiculous to expect our police to be patrolling like they're immigration services. I think our police should do what they're doing and not have to worry about that sort of thing. And so I think we don't have to say we're a sanctuary city to behave like one. And I think what we really need to do is be kind and welcoming and treat people with respect regardless. So no, we don't have to say we are, but we need to act like we are.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Pacheco?
Can you repeat that, please?
Absolutely. 2-part question. What is your definition of inclusive? And in your opinion, does the city of Kennewick adhere to it? Also, if there was a movement for the city of Kennewick to become a sanctuary city, where do you stand?
Well, first of all, knowing the city council members that I do, and the times I've talked to them, I think they're all nice guys. Everybody has a difference of opinion. I personally would like inclusive on a lot of things, on everybody, whether it's religion, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it's ethnicity. I think we need to be inclusive. Kennewick, in my opinion, because I travel a little bit, is still a small town. We're getting a lot of younger folks with different ideas and different ways, and I think you need to accept that because it's going to change. Sanctuary cities, that's a strong word for some people, and it means a lot. It means a lot to different people, and they're really passionate about that word. But I'm very happy to hear and read and correct. It's just my interpretation. I thought that our chief, and I don't want to speak for the chief and the sheriff, they don't ask that question. They don't ask that question when they pull someone over. And maybe I'm misspeaking. I'm just talking about an article I read. So if actions speak louder than words, then the city of Kennewick's not doing that. And I feel pretty good about that from what I know. So I guess to be inclusive, I'd like to welcome everybody into the city of Kennewick. If you have an issue, I'd like to hear it. If we need to take care of the issue, not the individual, we need to address and work whatever issue you have, and hopefully we all come to a good resolution.
All right.
Okay, thank you. My definition of inclusion or inclusive is just accepting everyone for who they are, and also understanding that we all have differences, but I really do believe that it's our common humanity that matters more. And one of my staff members told me earlier that someone had asked, "Is he that diversity guy?" And I am that diversity guy. I was part of a team that wanted to push forward an inclusive community resolution. So yeah, I am that guy, because I'm not going to lie, 2016 election really pushed my buttons, and I saw that our community was kind of being ripped apart, and I feel like that needed to be addressed. But I do feel like we're getting better, and I commend the Diversity Commission for what they've done and the hard work that they do, and I want to see that continue, because no one knew that inclusion is one of our core values for the city of Kennewick. So we are leading the way in that by we're the first city here to have a Diversity Commission, and I think it's great, and I think we should continue working on that. But in regards to Sanctuary City, no, I'm not in favor of Sanctuary City, and a lot of people thought that at the time. So this gives me a good time to actually address that now. No, I'm not in favor of a Sanctuary City. I'm in favor of an inclusive community where we all get together and where we work together to make things better for everyone, and where we, I go about in my public service, it's how can I make this community work for everybody? And I think everybody should try and do that in their daily lives, and help individuals. But I don't think we should denigrate entire ethnicities or people because of their sexual orientation. I think we should just start accepting everybody and move on and progress as a community.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Griffin, two-part question. What is your definition of inclusive, and in your opinion, does the City of Kennewick adhere to it? Also, if there was a movement for the City of Kennewick to become an official sanctuary city, where would you stand?
Okay, well, my definition of inclusive is, just being a human being. We all, bleed the same. It doesn't matter the color of your skin or anything. We're all people. And then, the whole sanctuary thing, I'm kind of against it as well. I think the city needs to work with people to get them to become legal citizens and whatnot. But I've never understood it. I guess I'm young, but we're all people. I don't see the need to, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting torn to shreds.
Just keep going. You're fine.
Oh, that's all I have to say on that matter. I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Millbauer. Again, two-part question. What is your definition of inclusive, and in your opinion, does the City of Kennewick adhere to it? Also, if there was a movement to make the City of Kennewick an official sanctuary city, where would you stand?
Well, up until 1956, the motto of this country was E pluribus unum, which means out of many one. And that's important because that's how I would define inclusive. I mean, all included. America was founded that way. If you look at the Tri-Cities in Kennewick, we are that way mainly because of Hanford. A lot of different people came into Hanford to work and to live in our communities from all walks of life, and they still do to this day. So inclusive to me, defining that as everyone's included, obviously. Does the city adhere to it? I believe city does adhere to it. They have started a diversity committee. I know they meet on all those different topics, and I believe they do adhere to that. As far as sanctuary city, I think that's a federal government issue. There are laws that govern that. If we don't agree with those laws, we as the people, we know how to change those, and that's what we should do, to change that and enact that to where they affect our cities differently. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to question 3, and we will start with Mrs. Watts. It is a question from the audience. Thank you all for turning these in. They want to know, how do you promote all 3 cities, Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland, to be a big regional force to promote business, economy, environment in the lower Mid-Columbia region?
I think that the most important thing about the Tri-Cities is that we are working together as cities. Partnerships are really, really important, and I found that through my work at Rotary and other community service avenues, that when you get with people from the different cities and you hear their ideas and you can share their common interests, you're doing a good thing. But most important is working together on projects like the Columbia Drive project that's with the port, the 911 center that's with all of the cities, and there's so many things that we could do. Ben Franklin Transit is a perfect example of all the cities and all the people coming together to produce a wonderful product, as is TRIDAC, the Visitor Convention Bureau, and the Convention Center, and the Three Rivers campus is enjoyed by everybody. So I'm hoping we can get to a point to where we can have some of these wonderful things, perhaps re-erect the regional PFD so we can do some things and put an aquatic center in Pasco and not have it matter, and have a performing arts center in Kennewick and not have it matter, and supported the reach, and everybody's be supporting that. Just play teams, because we're not going to get something like a Trader Joe's until we start acting like a whole community, and that's really important to me. So thank you.
All right. Mr. Pacheco, how do you promote all three cities, Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, to be a big regional force to promote business, economy, and the environment in the lower mid-Columbia?
Well, as far as promoting, we'd have to show about our quality of life that we have here. I don't know too many people that I've talked to away from here who've come to visit us who don't like being 4 hours away from somewhere. 4 hours from Seattle, 4 hours from Canada, 4 hours from Idaho, 4 hours from Oregon. People like that. But what I learned being on the Criminal Justice Tax Commission is that we need to get involved in our community. People were very surprised when they saw how short we were on resources for fire, for police. Once we started communicating and showing individuals our needs in our community, then that committee, in my opinion, went a lot smoother. Yeah, we had some naysayers and they weren't interested, but once we showed that we were able, if we were able to raise these funds and help the criminal justice system, it really went off. And that all started with communicating. So I think if we could communicate with the other cities, I think we'll be a better place. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Perales, would you like me to repeat it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, good. How do you promote all three cities, Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland, to be a big regional force to promote business, economy, and environment in the lower mid-Columbia?
Yeah, I think just like I said, I think it comes down to communication, but partnerships are going to be very vital for the continuing creating jobs here in the city of Kennewick and elsewhere going forward, because we're seeing a lot less state revenue come into the city, and so we need to start partnering together. And I believe when I'm on the council, I want to champion a shared economic regional plan between all the cities, and so we can start leveraging resources there at the state level. And because we need more funding in the Public Works Trust Fund, we need more funding for in our future transportation packages for our infrastructure. Because going forward, again, it's going to be vital for our continued success. And an example of partnering right now that I've seen is the city of Kennewick and the city of Richland, because there wasn't a lot of flat land here in the city of Kennewick, so they had to actually go build Elementary 16 in technically Richland. Another example is in partnering is the Benton and Franklin counties in the dispatch center. You know, that's a very critical issue, because I would hate, I mean, that is a life and death situation if your cell phone tower gets crossed and you're talking to Franklin County, but you live in Benton County. So partnerships are going to be a very big deal going forward, and I would like to champion those on the City Council.
All right, Mr. Griffin. How do you promote all three cities, Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, to be a big regional force to promote business, economy, and the environment in the lower mid-Columbia?
Well, for starters, the city councils have to work together. I mean, there's no other way that anything's going to get done without us. I mean, not us, but working together. Then, you know, like Mr. Perales said, working with this Ben Franklin Dispatch Center. I'm the son of a police officer. I understand. I've been on ride-alongs. I understand. Minutes or seconds matter really, and when seconds matter, you have to be right there. And then for environmentally, we all have to work together as well. I mean, it's not just city council. It's me, you, everybody here. We've got to reduce, reuse, recycle. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Millbauer? How do you promote all three cities, Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland, to be a big regional force to promote business, economy, environment, and the environment in the lower mid-Columbia?
I think through education, partnerships, and the willingness to work together is where you would start doing that. And we need to look beyond our city walls, our counties, and look of the regional area. I mean, I would love to see, what do you hear? If the Tri-Cities were all one, we'd be third or fourth largest in Washington State. Look what that would do for our region. So I think educating and the willingness to work and willingness to let go of those things, willingness to let go of a little bit of power so you can work with the other powers to be and bring them in and come together and work that way through partnerships. And that's, I think the Kennewick and all the cities work together through the different churches, organizations, the Chamber of Commerce's, the counties, the ports. They all work together for the growth of the area, and I think we just need to expand on that. And the one part that I think is missing that we need to capitalize on as a community is our labor unions. You know, we're out there, we work in our area, we work in the area, we work in the communities, work outside of communities, we contribute to the communities, and yet we don't feel like we're always heard all the time. And I think that's a source that we need to tap into in order to grow the regional area itself. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McKay. How do you promote all three cities, Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland, to be a big regional force to promote business, economy, and environment in the lower Mid-Columbia?
Well, I think a lot has already been said about how that's done, obviously through communication, working together. So I'm at the last workshop at the City Council, I was impressed because I had not heard about it, but about an inland port that is being considered over in Richland. And Richland people came and were represented and were talking about it, and it was talked about how the three cities would have to work together to prepare for the transportation that would be needed. It takes, if I remember correctly, 5 semi-trucks to fill a rail car, and these were talking of 150 rail cars going out of Richland once a week to twice a week. That's a lot of extra infrastructure and a lot of extra traffic, and so they were working together to talk about this to ease the port over on the west side. I was pretty impressed by what was being done already. It's not to say we can't do more, and we should do more, but there is a lot going on already, and I don't think we need to criticize the cities on that issue at all. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to question 4. We'll start with you, Mr. Pacheco. All right. This is kind of a long one. I'll repeat it as many times as you guys wish.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. There are new efforts for conveyance or return of the Columbia River shoreline to local control. Brad Fisher, Doc Hastings, and Gary Peterson have been working with Congressman Dan Newhouse on conveyance of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers property along the shoreline in Tri-Cities. This is a separate endeavor from the 60-acre conveyance the City of Kennewick is working on directly with the Corps. So our question is, if the new effort in conveyance is granted, what kind of development would you envision?
First, truth be told, I'm from that area. That's where I grew up. A lot of people in that area know me, grew up with them. Everybody on that street knows me by first name basis. I care about those people. Whatever we do, we need to consider the people that live there. I don't like moving into a spot and shoving people out. So that's the first thing we need to care about is our residents who live there. The second thing, a lot of people don't know, and we're going the bridge. You got the bridge-to-bridge plan coming, and I could foresee businesses maybe being in those neighborhoods. I could foresee maybe some type of condominiums along that levee way. I've heard in the past talk about maybe some beaches along that area. Whatever we do, it's going to be a plus. I have some property right along the river. It's beautiful. You can throw a rock into that. I'd hate to sell it, but you know what? Sometimes I feel selfish. Every time somebody comes to visit, my parents left me this place. They want it in a heartbeat. They'd love to live there, and I've taken it for granted. But now, as I'm getting older, I really appreciate it. I really like living by that river. And as a kid, I grew up like Tom Sawyer. I grew up on that river. I'd hate to sell it, but if it benefited the community, I would really, really, really consider it, because I'd like all of you to share it. So I think it has positive things for the community if it were to be developed. But those are the kinds of things I see in the future for that area.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Perales, repeat the whole thing.
Just some of it.
You understand the issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
And then the actual question is, if the new effort of the conveyance is granted, what kind of development would you envision?
Yeah, again, I would like, this is a big part of my platform, I would like to see the Columbia River shoreline and the Columbia Park return to the city of Kennewick, because the city of Kennewick pays almost $1 million in maintaining that in the Columbia Park, and we really don't have a lot to say in regards to how to maintain it. And then also, you know, again, we spend $1 million, so I would like to see some light commercial done right now so that we can actually pay for the $1 million maintenance that we already do. But if it is granted, I would like to see community input first and foremost. I would also like to be working with TriDeck, the Tri-Cities River Shore Enhancement Council, working with the tribes as well, because we know that they have a lot of history down there, and also working, also just open the channels of communication with the Corps. I've done work with the Corps, and sometimes they can be a little cumbersome and tedious, but again, I don't want the Columbia River to be maintained by some faraway bureaucrat. I think the city of Kennewick and its citizens can do a lot better, and it's a big economic opportunity for us. It's a real gem, and we can start enhancing the river shore and become a tourist destination, because when you have that economic development, you start seeing you get more revenue from sales tax, from the property tax. So I think it is the future of the city of Kennewick, and they're already implementing the first phases down there on the Columbia River on the drive with the urban wine village, and so I think the next anchored real estate development would be right there on the Columbia River.
Thank you, Mr. Perales. Mr. Griffin? This is a very long one. I will certainly repeat it. There are new efforts for conveyance or return of the Columbia River shoreline to local control. Brad Fisher, Doc Hastings, and Gary Peterson have been working with Congressman Dan Newhouse on conveyance of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers property along the shoreline in Tri-Cities. This is a separate endeavor from a 60-acre conveyance that the city of Kennewick is working on with the Corps. So our question is, if this new effort is granted, what sort of development would you see?
I would be so excited about this. I don't know. I've spent way too many days down at Columbia Park, you know, playing around, doing, you know, 22-year-old stuff. But, you know, if we could get that back, we could improve the bike paths. I mean, I don't know if you guys run down there or bike down there. It's kind of like a landmine trying to dodge roots, giant holes in the ground, you know. We could do that. You know, the economic standpoint would be just great. You know, I guess that's all I really have to say on that. Thank you so much.
All right. And Mr. Millbauer, back to you.
If you're good, I'm good.
Okay.
I'll answer. You don't have to read it.
Okay.
Business opportunities. What a great idea at Columbia Park. I've envisioned that for as long as I've lived here. I think it's a beautiful area, and I think we should work on doing something with it. I would envision recreational, business, open space, bikes, better than it is, walking, history, tribal, bring all that down in there in order to make the park a beautiful place, an attraction, bring visitors in where they want to spend their money in our community. And I think it's not only good for Kennewick, but good for the Tri-Cities, Mid-Columbia in general. In order to do those sort of things, I think it's, of course, we got to deal with the Corps, but you need to be able to work with the different partners in order to do that. It's going to be an expensive operation, and go after the funding to do that. And also, you're going to have to work with the tribes, you know, and respect that part of the river for them also. Thank you.
Mr. McKay?
I'm good. I would like to see it keep open all the way, at least so people can access it. And then after that, recreational type things, some business, obviously there'll have to be support businesses and restaurants, hotels, things like that. But I would like to see access so that people in the area have access to that area. I don't know who's been to Hawaii, but even though hotels and things, people build structures along the ocean, they still have access to the ocean and the beachfront and those type of things. And I think that would be a great plan for that area, so that you can still have access to the river and those type of things. And so that's what I would see happening there. And do I think it should come back to the city? By all means. That is a prime piece of property. And the fact that the Corps has had it this long, it just doesn't need to be. The city should have that, or should be private, one of the two. Yes.
You know, I agree with everybody on this panel as far as returning the property to the city's control instead of the Corps. When I was president of the board chair of the Carousel Board, we were approached by the people that were working on the development for Duffy's Pond and Clover Island and all that piece in there. And so I've seen the plans for down there. There won't be a carousel there, though it's at Southridge now. But they had plans for like an Omni Theater, outdoor amphitheater, walking trails, some residential, but a lot of it was things that we all enjoy so much when we take that trip to Portland or Seattle, where you can just walk every place and enjoy the beautiful things down there. And I think we should encourage as much development as possible down there, as long as it's smart. And again, like I said, if it's not surrounded by the single occupancy vehicle, if there's you know, it's walkable and it has access to public transportation. So I'm all for development along the river as long as it's done smart.
All right. Moving on to question 5. This time we'll begin with Mr. Perales. Are there areas in the current city budget where you would like to see an increase or decrease in spending, and why do you think this change would be beneficial to the city?
That's a really tough question because, you know, our current budget is around $270 million, and I would like to see increases in lots of things. For instance, for the capital improvement program, you know, funding for the Ridge Line, and 395 interchange for our road, especially after the winter we just had. Man, it's tough. I know lots of people who've popped lots of tires. And to see decreases, I honestly can't say we need decreases in anything because, like I said, we need more funds from the state and. Yeah, I don't see any decreases. I would like to see increases again in the infrastructure, and also for our seniors. I think we're starting to see a lot of seniors retire, and I think we need to start creating more of an intergenerational community where age really doesn't matter, and zoning for more assisted living facilities and make the city kind of more affordable. So whatever we can do to reduce the cost of living, if that's possible, creating jobs, I think that's where we should be increasing our funds for in the budget.
All right. Mr. Griffin, are there areas in the current city budget where you would like to see an increase or decrease in spending, and why do you think that change in spending would benefit the city, or how would it benefit the city?
I would love to see an increase in infrastructure, obviously. You know, the roads, you can always improve them. There's always room for improvement, whether it be the sidewalks, the actual roads, bike paths, whatnot. Increase in after-school programs into the Parks Department. You know, if we can give kids stuff to do after school, you know, they'll be busy. They're going to learn. They're going to learn social skills, valuable things. You know, and I don't really see a decrease as well. You know, I think we're doing just fine. But other than that, thank you so much.
All right. Mr. Millbauer.
Would you repeat it?
Absolutely. Are there areas in the current city budget where you would like to see an increase or decrease in spending, and why do you think this change in spending would benefit the city?
Well, as far as an increase in spending, I wish I could wave the magic wand and and have all the funding we need to do whatever we need to do for the the citizens of Kennewick. But we don't have that, so we need to work to be financially responsible with what we have in order to try and accomplish the things we want to do for Kennewick, and work and partner with the state and all other areas in order to obtain those funds we need. I think we also have to look at the return of investment we're going to get from what we do. So if we have to do an increase in tax or sales tax or that sort of thing to fund something we need for our community, we need to look at what the return on the investment is going to be for that increase. We also need to make sure we're educating the community, the citizens of the community of Kennewick, to make sure they understand and receive their input. As far as decrease, we don't want to decrease anything, so I think we're doing good.
All right. Mr. McKay.
To increase one thing, you've got to decrease the other, or you've got to increase the income. None of us like to increase taxes. So the only way you can do that is look at the budget and see where there's areas for cutting and then increase it. The place I would increase, obviously, as I talked about at first, would be infrastructure. If we're going to grow, we've got to have infrastructure. That's where we'd want to do it. I'm not on the city council now. I don't have privy to the numbers, so I can't tell you where I would cut. But having been in business for myself and been a commercial loan officer and analyzed a lot of businesses, there's always something you can cut. It's just a matter of is the will there to do it, and when you need to spend on something else, then you have to prioritize, and that's what I would try to do.
All right, Mrs. Watts, would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's okay. I'm good. Actually, in the budget for the 2017 and 2018, in Kennewick's budget, they've actually set a list of priorities, and they went through someplace around 250 items and prioritized them in the importance of them. So they have set priorities, and I was really happy to see that. I also know there's been some complaints about the customer service piece of this, but I did see in the budget too that they have increased the staff and customer service, so the permitting process is faster and more customer friendly, and they increased the amount of customer service representatives they have working in the city. So I was pleased to see that, that they are paying attention and they're doing all the right things. Thank you. So I don't think there's any place really they can cut. The one thing I would like to see, something in the budget down the road for a new or revitalized senior center, something more like the one in Richland. That's their community center. It's beautiful and they can use it for multi-purposes things, but our seniors deserve a really nice senior center, and I'd really like to see some funding for that.
Mr. Pacheco, would you like me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
I too see no decrease. You know, you've heard me say earlier, infrastructure, again, is one of my top priorities. But I urge you to look at law enforcement and fire. You know, we don't think a lot about those. We take it for granted. Our officers are human beings. I think the chief says he may be where he needs to be, but it's nice to have more. It's always nice to have more law enforcement. You need them at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're there. They don't ask questions why you need them. They address the issue. And sometimes I think they could use more when it comes to law enforcement, and fire for that matter. Another thing that personally that I'd like to see is a little investment in solar energy at this city. I've gotten familiar with solar energy. I like being self-reliant, independent when it comes to that. I could see new businesses having solar energy. I could see tax credits for older businesses that maybe install solar energy and get a little bit more self-reliant. So that's just me personally. Thanks.
All right. Nice job. And for question 6, we'll begin with Mr. Griffin. And I think we'll do 1 minute. We're running a bit short on time, so if we'll have a 1 minute time on this one, and then 1 minute for your closing statements as well. Does that work for everybody? Okay. Well, I won't steal any more time. Question, Mr. Griffin. Name one direction the current city council is taking that you most support, and if elected, what is one direction you would try to change that?
Well, the one I really support is the Vista Field, the development of Vista Field. You know, like I said, I've lived next to it. I've seen, you know, planes look like they're going to crash out of my front window. It's kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy as a kid, you know. But, you know, the thought of being able to literally walk from my house to just a cool downtown, you know, like small road area, just fantastic, just makes me super happy. And another thing, the Clover Island revamp just blows my mind, actually. I go boating a lot, and, you know, we're up and down the river, and the thought of having that right there to just dock our boat, go up there, hang out for the day, get back on the boat, you know, zoom around, it's awesome, you know, and there's nothing I disagree with. I think they do a great job. They do a fantastic job. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Millbauer, name one direction the current city council is taking that you most support. If elected, what is one direction you would try to change?
I support and think they're doing a great job on the development they're doing, their plan, their 20-year plan, where they want to take Kennewick and where they want it to be in order to secure the funds needed to do those things, the infrastructure development they need to do in the urban growth areas to attract new business in here, the current projects they have going on within the city, Columbia Urban Village, Vista Field, hopefully the link someday with with everyone involved. Those projects are great for not only Kennewick but for the Tri-Cities, and I think they do a wonderful job at doing that. And I don't see any other side of it.
All right. Mr. McKay.
Well, as a whole, the city's not doing too bad. They communicate well with other cities. They're working on their plans. The issue, I guess, that I have, as having been through the commercial permitting process several times with my project, and having talked and worked with several of the other people in the area that have commercial permitting projects, is that that is not always the smoothest process. I think they've done a fair amount with the home building process, getting those done. But the commercial building and the development of that type of thing needs to be looked at and streamlined a little more.
Okay. Mrs. Watts?
I'm with most of my colleagues up here that I'm really excited about the Columbia Drive, Vista Field, and all the development there. I think it's wonderful opportunities. One of the problems that we have is that we don't have a lot of things that attract young professionals, people that come to the area and stay. As was mentioned earlier, people come, they get in their 20s and they go away, but we need things that attract young professionals, and I think the city is on track to doing that with the Vista Field and Columbia Drive area. So I really support all the efforts of the city. I think they're doing a fine job. The one thing that I've heard since we've been up here and the group that was before us talk about was the communication piece. And we're talking about how to inform citizens better. I'm a real advocate for public hearings during the day. I'm a real advocate for public hearings on weekends when the citizens can actually get there and have their input. And I'm most especially an advocate for display ads in the newspaper so people know what's going on and when to be there. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Pacheco?
Could you repeat that, please?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Name one direction the current city council is taking that you most support. If elected, what is one direction you would try to change?
Well, again, I like that interstate. I like the way we're going there. I like it for a safety purpose and for an economic development area. And I think the City Council is addressing it. I mean, we're going to have to get to the issue about funding later, and we're not there yet. We're still working on designs, and I think that's good for that area. The change I would like to see, and it's just me personally wearing other hats, you do Robert's Rules, you follow Robert's Rules of Order. I personally, and I like Mr. Young, he's a really nice guy, I'd like to see a strong leader have the first vote at every council meeting. He is the leader of the council. You should know which way your mayor's going, not wait till the end. I've seen times where mayors go to the end. Well, just go with the flow. I don't like that. I think a mayor should vote first. Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Perales.
Yeah, no, I really support the direction that the City Council is currently taking. I think they're really creative of the economic development opportunities that we've seen. They're really at no cost or a very little cost to local taxpayers. And then they're planning for growth. But if there's certain things that I would like to see the council do better, it would be the protection of natural spaces, our parks and stuff. I think that's the reason that our urban growth area application got bogged down the last time. And also, how do we come up with the priorities for our capital projects? So like the 395 interchange. Why aren't we seeing something like an improvement over there off of Yelm and 395? And also community engagement. A lot of people you don't know, you probably don't even follow the Facebook page. The Facebook page for the City of Kennewick only has 1,500 followers. There's 80-some thousand people in the City of Kennewick. So I think they need to start live streaming the City Council meetings on Facebook and just providing more community engagement so we get more input in the City Council.
How many likes?
0.
All right. Great job, everyone. Now you'll each have 1 minute for a closing statement. Mr. Griffin started. Yes. Thank you. Wow. That's debatable. We will start with the closing statements now, though. Each of you will get 1 minute. And Mr. Millbauer, you filed first. You go first.
Thank you. My statement, it's easy to criticize and stand in judgment of our current City Council decisions, policies, and claim it can be done better. Throughout this political journey, we have filled out questionnaires and fielded questions from voters and people of positions of authority, all wanting to know what we were going to do differently. As the old saying goes, you can't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. With no incumbent running, Kennewick will elect a first-time city council member. So what sets me apart from the other candidates? I'm running because I believe in public service and giving back to my community. I need to make a difference. I am energized by the opportunity to serve Kennewick and will greet this challenge with honesty, integrity, with confidence and communication, and an unwavering commitment to do the right thing. My career in volunteerism has afforded me decades of experience in wrestling with ethical, legal, and contractual issues. Years of leadership management has taught me that listening with an open mind and focusing on collaborative solutions is the only way to sustain long-term improvements that benefit everyone. Your voice, your community is about providing your voice in our local government process. I would love to be representing the city, representing you as your next city councilman for position number 4. Thank you, and thank you very much for your attendance and your interest in your local city government.
Thank you very much. Mr. McKay.
Well, I want to thank everybody for putting this on. Thank everybody for coming. I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity to do this. It has been a lot of fun. Some of you may have seen my signs going up, and they're mostly on private property. It's been a lot of fun stopping and talking to those people about what bothers them in the city or what they like about the city, and there's a lot to like. There's a few that have problems, but it has been so fun stopping and talking with people and getting to know different people in the community as I've done that. With my experience on owning a business, accounting, commercial loan officer, volunteer, those type of things, I feel like I'm suited for the job, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to come and listen to us. And I, too, was very surprised about how many people in the room. So it makes my heart feel good. What I've done to prepare for the job on the City Council is meet with all of our partners. I've met with the Port of Kennewick. I've met with the Chief of Police, the City Manager, the gentleman that runs the Three Rivers campus. I've met with TriDeck. I've met with the Visitors Convention Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, and actually the Downtown Kennewick Association as well, because it was important to me to know how all the pieces fit together and to understand the partnerships. As I said earlier, I think of this as another avenue of community service. This is what I've been doing since I came to Kennewick, either in fund development or projects, and I really hope you vote for me. My name is Christy Watts. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Pacheco?
My journey didn't start 60 days ago. My journey to here started years ago. I was a young man as a reserve officer protecting our streets here in the city of Kennewick. You don't get paid for that. That's pure voluntary. When I learned that we didn't have enough money for our law enforcement and fire, I volunteered for the Criminal Justice Tax Commission. I was selected, thanks to the chief who recommended me. We got that passed. That took a year to do. Then it took another year as co-chairman to get the word out to try to get it passed. We were very successful. And then I was asked to be on the Planning Commission. I've been very privileged to my peers to vote me in as chairman. I think we've done some good things for the city to date. None of those things were easy. They were hard. Those are hard things you picked when you volunteer. So when you look at my name on the ballot, I'd like you to think of some words that I think describe myself. Some of the words you might think about are determination, discipline, commitment, and sacrifice. So I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Perales?
Again, thank you to the league for putting this forum on tonight, and I appreciate everyone coming out. I am a 30-year resident of Kennewick. I've lived here my whole life. I have strong roots here, and I believe we have great potential in the city of Kennewick. By working together, we can author the greatest chapter in the city's history. So please ask yourself this one question when filling out your ballot. And I noticed a lot of people brought their ballots with them today. Will I be better off in 4 years with my choice? Examine yourself and the quality of life that you want for you and your family. I ask that we push to be better than what we are now. In this campaign, I have knocked over 2,000 doors, and I've seen a lot of people in this room that I remember seeing as I was doing it. And I've talked to hundreds of people, and at each door I was met with the same general question by voters. Is this the Kennewick I live in now really the one I want to pass down to my children and grandchildren? As I listened to the voters express their frustration about Kennewick's current standing under the leadership of the City Council, I found myself even more determined to even work harder during this campaign. The people of Kennewick deserve to feel inspired. They deserve to feel like their government is invested in their lives, and they deserve to feel heard. So please, I hope you will consider voting for Leo Perales, Kennewick City Council.
Thank you. And Mr. Griffin, 1 minute.
Well, thank you all for coming. I won't keep you up too late, you know. I just want to thank you. If you'd like to vote for me, vote for me. You know, if you're willing to grow with me, I'm going to help Kennewick grow. That's all I have to say. This has been just a crazy experience for my young life. Yeah, thank you all for coming. That's all I've got to really say, you know. Have a great day, guys.
Now, a special thanks to all the candidates who participated this evening, and a special thank you to the charter crew back here, Nick and Dinah. Thank you guys. And remember, you can check that out on Charter's Public Access Channel 190. And we also want to say thank you to Mid-Columbia Libraries for letting us use this space this evening. And thank you all for putting in questions, too. Unfortunately, there were lots of good ones, but due to time constraints, we weren't able to get to them all. So come next time. We'll do it again. Don't forget to vote.